It was just another Thursday night in the city, the kind where the usual city hum was just a little quieter. I'd clocked out after a brutal day. All I wanted was to crash at home. Jennifer, my wife, was downstairs, probably glued to some reality show. Ashley, our 16-year-old, was in her room, phone practically surgically attached to her ear, teenage girl as usual. I was heading past her door, just going to say goodnight, when a phrase drifted out that stopped me dead. Yeah, Mom was with him again last weekend. Ashley's tone was so casual, like she was talking about the weather. I froze outside her door, not meaning to eavesdrop, but curiosity had its claws in me. Yeah, it's been going on for a while now. I know, right? She's not even trying to hide it anymore. Ashley giggled, a light, airy sound that felt like a punch to my gut. Nausea slammed into me. It didn't take a genius to figure it out. Jennifer. A lover. Someone she'd been seeing. Someone Ashley knew about. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat in my ears. Could it be real? My Jennifer, the woman I swore I knew inside and out, living a double life right under my roof. A cold dread seeped into my chest as I kept listening, praying I was mishearing, that it was some insane mistake. Instead, Ashley went on, spilling more details that felt like shards of glass in my brain. She tells me to cover for her sometimes, like, if you know who calls. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Dad would never suspect. He's clueless. Mom's gotten pretty good at sneaking around. A bitter laugh escaped my throat before I could stop it. I clapped a hand over my mouth, terrified Ashley would hear and know I was there. I backed away slowly, my mind reeling. Ashley knew. My own daughter knew about her mother's affair and was helping to hide it from me. The betrayal was a knife twisting deeper. Ashley's words echoed in my head. I stumbled downstairs, my body numb, and sank onto the couch. I glanced at Jennifer, lost in her TV show, her face illuminated by the flickering screen. She looked so normal, so damn ordinary. How long had this been going on? How many nights had she walked out, leaving me in the dark while she was with him? And Ashley, how many lies had she spun to protect her mother's secret? I could barely look at Jennifer, but I forced myself to stay calm. Exploding, confronting her without proof, would just give her a chance to deny it, to twist it around, make me feel crazy. I needed to think, to get my head straight, figure out what to do. The rest of the evening was a blur of motions. I barely spoke. Jennifer didn't notice, still glued to the TV, laughing at some sitcom while my world crumbled around me. That night I lay in bed next to her, sleep a distant dream. I stared at the ceiling, Ashley's words replaying endlessly. My mind drifted back through the years to memories that were now poisoned. Our wedding day, the years we'd built together, moments I'd cherished, all tainted, all a lie. She'd betrayed me, and the worst part, she'd dragged Ashley into it. Ashley, who I'd raised, trusted, loved more than anything, had chosen her mother's side, covering up instead of telling me the truth. Anger simmered, but I held it down. I couldn't confront them, not yet. I needed to be careful, find out the full extent of their betrayal before I made a move. So I lay there, the silence of the night broken only by Jennifer's steady breathing, feeling like a ghost in my own life. The next day I went through the motions, acting like nothing had changed. I forced smiles, pretended I didn't know my wife and daughter were lying to my face. But every time I looked at Jennifer, every time I caught Ashley's eye, the bitterness gnawed at me, a constant reminder of the truth I couldn't ignore. I was determined to get to the bottom of this, find out how long it had been going on, who this other man was. Jennifer thought she was getting away with it, that I'd never suspect a thing. She was wrong. I wouldn't confront her yet, but I would unearth the truth, and when I did, she would understand the depth of the pain she'd caused. Walking out the door to work that morning, a cold resolve settled over me. Jennifer and Ashley had made their choice. Now I'd make mine. Whatever came next, they were going to feel the full weight of their betrayal. The following days were a chaotic mess of confusion, anger, and heartbreak. My mind raced, constantly replaying memories, dissecting every moment, every glance, every touch. I remember Jennifer getting dressed up for girls' nights, insisting she needed a break. I'd never questioned it. I trusted her completely. Now, every memory was tainted, reframed by the sickening realization that her affection, her loyalty, had been a lie. Despite the gut-wrenching hurt, I knew I had to stay calm. Confronting her now would just give her the upper hand, a chance to twist the narrative, to lie her way out. I'd be the one asking questions, and she'd be in control. No, I had to be strategic. I needed solid proof before I did anything. That evening, I waited until Jennifer was asleep, her breathing deep and even, before slipping out of bed and heading to her home office. I went through her drawers, her files, hunting for anything that could expose her deception. In her purse, I found a receipt from a restaurant across town, dated for a night she claimed to be with a friend. It was a fancy place, the kind we went to for anniversaries. A receipt wasn't proof, but it was a start. Back in our bedroom, I unlocked her phone. I knew her password. Some stupid anniversary date. It felt wrong, invading her privacy. But in my heart, it felt justified. This was about the truth, no matter how ugly. As I scrolled through her messages, my worst fears exploded into reality. Texts from D. The messages were sporadic, but unmistakably intimate. Last night was amazing. Miss you. When can we meet again? Every text was a knife twisting deeper. She hadn't just lied. She'd built a whole secret world outside our marriage, with Ashley as her accomplice. Rage and sadness warred inside me. I wanted to shake her awake, scream, demand answers, but I held back, forcing myself to stay silent, to let the anger simmer beneath the surface. She thought she was untouchable, her deception hidden, but the truth was right here, in black and white, a brutal reminder of the life I thought I knew. The next morning I sat at the breakfast table, watching her move around the kitchen, oblivious to the storm raging inside me. She laughed at something Ashley said, and for a split second, it was like nothing was wrong. But I saw through it now. The practiced smiles, the easy lies. Everything about her felt fake, a mask hiding the betrayal underneath. Ashley glanced at me, her expression neutral, maybe a little distant. I couldn't look at her. Not anymore. not knowing she'd been helping her mother keep this secret. The betrayal wasn't just Jennifer's, it was Ashley's too. She'd chosen to protect the lie instead of being honest with me. It hurt in a way that was hard to describe, like losing not just a wife, but a daughter too. At work that day, I couldn't focus. The anger simmered, threatening to boil over. I wanted to tell someone, a friend, to share the weight of what I'd discovered, but I couldn't. This was my pain, my battle to fight alone. Instead, I started planning my next move. Over the next few days, I dug deeper, meticulously documenting everything. I tracked her spending, found more receipts, screenshots of her messages, even a few emails. The pieces clicked into place, each one a painful reminder of the life she'd been hiding. In her office desk, hidden behind some files, I found a burner phone, unused, battery still in its wrapper. Curiosity, or maybe a morbid need for more pain, got the better of me. I powered it on. It was full of messages with D, plans, pet names, empty promises, trips they wanted to take, nights they'd spent sneaking around. Every word on that screen was another nail in the coffin of our marriage. I'd seen enough. I knew the truth, and I knew what I had to do. Confronting her would just lead to more lies, more fake apologies. I wanted something different, a kind of justice that would cut as deep as her betrayal had cut me. I wasn't going to fight or beg her to stay. No, I was going to make her feel the emptiness she'd created in my life. As the city lights flickered on that evening, I made my decision. I would vanish. I would leave without a word, without a trace. Just as she'd taken everything from me, I'd take myself away. Let her wake up to an empty bed, an empty home. Let her face the weight of her actions alone, without the husband she'd betrayed, the family she'd taken for granted. My absence would be my final statement, a stark reminder that trust, once broken, could never be fixed. I started making preparations, quietly transferring funds, closing joint accounts, finding a place where she'd never find me. She thought she was keeping me in the dark, but I was one step ahead. Soon, she'd understand the cost of betrayal. The days that followed were a test of endurance. I forced myself to act normal, pretending to be the same husband, the same father, even though I knew everything had shattered. I was living with strangers, people who had betrayed me in the most profound way. But I stayed calm, knowing that soon they'd face the consequences of their choices. Every night, after they were asleep, I continued my preparations. I moved enough money into a private account to last me for years, careful to leave no digital footprint. I researched new cities, finally settling on a quiet town upstate, a place where no one knew my name. A fresh start, far from the memories that haunted our apartment. The hardest part was deciding what to take, what to leave behind. I packed a small bag with essentials, a few personal items, photographs of my parents, my grandfather's watch, things Jennifer wouldn't miss. I wanted her to feel the emptiness when she woke up, to understand what it felt like to lose something she thought would always be there. My disappearance needed to be a constant, silent accusation. As I finalized my plans, a strange calm washed over me. This wasn't just running away. It was reclaiming control. I'd been blindsided, but now I held the cards. Soon, they'd know what it felt like to be left in the dark. On my last night, I took one final look around the apartment. I walked through each room, memories flooding back with every step. Jennifer's laughter, Ashley's childhood artwork still taped to the fridge. It was painful, but necessary. I had loved them both deeply, but that love was gone, replaced by a hollow ache. At dawn, I grabbed my bag and walked out the door. The city air was crisp, the streets still mostly empty. As I got into my car, I glanced back at the building one last time, a strange finality washing over me. This chapter of my life was over, and as I drove away, I knew I was leaving behind not just a home, but the betrayal, the lies, the life I thought I knew. I didn't know what the future held, but a feeling I hadn't felt in months bloomed in my chest. Freedom. The first days in my new town were surreal. I'd chosen a small place on the Hudson, far enough away to be a clean break. I rented a simple cabin overlooking the river and started settling in. Living alone was strange, but the quiet brought a peace I hadn't realized I craved. I spent my days exploring the town, hiking in the Catskills, keeping to myself. No one here knew my story, and that was exactly what I wanted. I could finally be myself without the weight of betrayal. I wasn't anyone's husband, anyone's father. Just Michael, starting over. Every now and then, my thoughts would drift back to Jennifer and Ashley. I pictured them waking up, finding me gone, the realization dawning that their secrets had cost them everything. Confusion, shock, then the slow understanding of what my disappearance meant. They'd lost the life they'd taken for granted, and that thought, I admit, brought a cold satisfaction. I kept my phone off, cutting off all ties to the past. Clean break. New beginning. The life I'd left behind was fading, and with each day, I felt more at peace. 3 years had passed since I'd vanished from my old life. In that time, I'd built something new, something real. My days were simple, but fulfilling. Hiking, photography, exploring the small towns upstate. I'd met people, locals, folks with no connection to my past, and embraced the quiet freedom I'd discovered. The scars of betrayal were still there, faint lines in my heart, but they'd faded with time. I was starting to truly move on. One crisp afternoon, I was at a local diner, enjoying the quiet buzz of conversation, when a familiar voice jolted me. I looked up. Dan, an old friend from my city life standing there, mouth hanging open, shock plastered across his face. He looked as stunned to see me as I was to see him. "Michael, is that really you?" he stammered, eyes wide. "Yeah, Dan, it's me," I replied, a wave of old memories washing over me. I hadn't expected to see anyone from my past, let alone Dan. He slid into the booth across from me, his face a mix of curiosity and concern. "Man, everyone thought you just disappeared, vanished. No one had a clue where you went." "I needed a fresh start," I said carefully, unsure how much to reveal. But something in Dan's expression told me he had more to say. "You missed a lot," he said, leaning closer, his voice dropping. "After you left, Things went downhill fast for Jennifer and Ashley. My heart hammered. The emotions I'd buried began to stir. I nodded, waiting, trying to keep my face blank. Right after you disappeared, rumors about Jennifer's affair started going around, he continued, shaking his head. At first, people were sympathetic, thinking she'd been blindsided by you leaving. But then, the truth started coming out, and everything changed. I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. What do you mean? Dan sighed, glancing around the diner before continuing. Well, turns out Jennifer wasn't as slick as she thought. People started putting things together. The fancy dinners, her outings, the fact she didn't seem too worried about where you'd gone. People talked. And eventually, it all came out. The affair. A grim satisfaction settled over me. Knowing the truth was one thing. Hearing that she'd been exposed, her carefully constructed facade shattered, was another. Dan went on, his voice somber. People turned on her. Lost friends left and right. People she'd known for years wanted nothing to do with her. Even her family was ashamed. Heard her parents were devastated when they found out. And Ashley? I asked, dreading the answer but needing to know. Dan shook his head slowly. Ashley and Jennifer had a massive falling out. Ashley blamed her mom for everything. The broken family, your disappearance. She felt guilty too for hiding it from you. From what I heard, Ashley moved out after graduation, cut off contact with her mom. They don't speak anymore. I leaned back, absorbing the weight of his words. Jennifer had lost everything. Friends, family, even her daughter. My disappearance had forced her to face the wreckage she'd created, and now she was alone. I didn't think it would turn out like this, I said quietly, more to myself than to Dan. But there was no sadness, no sympathy, just a profound sense of closure. Justice. Dan looked at me, his expression both curious and understanding. Honestly, sounds like you made the right choice. Sometimes walking away is the best thing you can do. We sat in silence for a moment, the past hanging heavy in the air. I thanked him for telling me, for giving me the final piece of closure I hadn't known I needed. When we parted ways, I felt lighter, unburdened. The truth was out. The justice I'd craved, in its own way, complete. Walking along the river that evening, watching the water flow, I knew the life I'd left behind was truly closed. Jennifer and Ashley had made their choices, and I had made mine. For the first time in years, I felt fully free. With the news of Jennifer and Ashley's downfall, a new chapter began. It was a strange feeling, knowing those who once meant everything were now distant memories, their hold on me finally broken. The anger, the betrayal, the heartache, they were fading, replaced by a liberation I hadn't thought possible. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into my new life. Years of guardedness began to melt away. With the past truly behind me, I felt ready to open up, to engage with the world again. I reconnected with old passions, photography, hiking, spending hours exploring trails, capturing the beauty of the Hudson Valley. I joined a local photography club, started volunteering at a community center, meeting people who knew nothing of my past pain. They saw only the man I was now, not the scars I carried. One evening, chatting with new friends at the diner, I realized how much I'd grown. I was no longer defined by my old life, by the betrayal that had almost broken me. I'd built something better, something truer. In time, I considered opening myself to companionship again. There was Sarah, a woman I'd met at the community center, kind, funny, compassionate, in a way that felt incredibly refreshing. Our conversations flowed easily, filled with laughter and shared interests. She knew nothing of my heartbreak, but for the first time, I felt like sharing my story, allowing myself to be vulnerable again. Over a quiet dinner, I told her pieces of my past, the betrayal, the pain, the journey that had led me here. She listened without judgment, her presence calm and grounding. When I finished, she simply reached out, taking my hand, offering silent support. It was enough. With Sarah, I found a different kind of connection, one built on genuine respect and shared moments, free from the shadows of betrayal. No rush, no pressure, just the freedom to enjoy each other's company and let things unfold naturally. For the first time in years, warmth bloomed in my heart, a spark of hope for the future. Sitting by the river one evening, watching the sunset paint the sky, I thought back on everything, the life I'd built, the people I'd left behind, the journey from heartbreak to healing. I realized I'd come full circle. The pain I'd thought would destroy me had, in fact, made me stronger, wiser. Jennifer and Ashley were now just shadows, their actions a closed chapter. My life now was mine, untainted by lies, free from bitterness. Watching the river flow, endless and steady, I felt a deep peace, knowing I was finally truly happy. I had survived betrayal, rebuilt myself, and emerged stronger, with a life richer and more meaningful than I could have imagined. I was free, no longer defined by those who had hurt me, but by the strength I'd found within myself. This was my life now, a life of peace, happiness, new beginnings, and I was ready for whatever came next.